A Boy and His Dog, The Final Solution. What to do with majority/oppressor culture is a continuing problem for minority/oppressed groups. Most of us settle for crumbs. The illusion, the implication, the single line, the good scene, the dominant group character who one can identify with, without having to face the nastiness of the minority ones, who are two-dimensional or defamatory. The following review was published in 1975 after seeing the film discussed below. I found that crumbs were not enough, and that I would no longer settle for the kind of cultural product that blithely blamed me for the ills of its far more loathsome male characters. I still think that Harlan Ellison's story of the same name is a very different matter from the film, for which Ellison wasn't responsible. In the story, everyone is loathsome, and Quilla June has a solid beef against her ghastly father. That said, when escaping Topeka, she stuns him by confronting him with what she knows to be his own secret desires. Incest with her. That is, after all, a fairly good reason to be angry at your father. Luckily, I'm an artist and I can make good the extraordinary deficit of any representation in popular culture of people like me and feelings like mine by writing them into stories. People who feel the lack but aren't artists must have had the time of it. All minority/oppressed art has a wonderful freshness about it, when it is honest. And one of the most heartening things about the last 40-odd years in the United States is the emergence of so many artists who find their grounding in lesbian experience, gay experience, female experience, the experience of being a woman or man of color, being disabled, any combination of the above, and many more. Langston Hughes, Cheryl Wade's and Christus poems, Toni Morrison's and Red Jordan's Arobateao's fiction, these are only a few of the marvelous things that exist outside the pale of the dominators, as Quebecois historian Lise Noel calls them. It all starts when you say no. The Denver area is full of male feminists. Two of them, both science fiction writers, urged me to see A Boy and His Dog, a feature-length film made from Harlan Ellison's science fiction story of the same name. Both men are a friend of mine, and Harlan Ellison is a friend of mine also. Yet I must proclaim publicly right here that sending a woman to see A Boy and His Dog is like sending a Jew to a movie that glorifies the show. You need not be a feminist to loathe this film. I don't know whether Ellison supervised the making of the film or whether he approves of it, so this review will deal entirely with the film, not with Ellison's story. Kate Millett called Norman Mailer's An American Dream a novel about how to kill your wife and live happily ever after. A Boy and His Dog is about how to feed your girlfriend to your dog and live happily ever after. This film is in the direct line of descendant of hundreds of Hollywood movies in which a designing and dangerous woman tries to pair loyal male buddies. Boy has essentially the same ending as Casablanca, although in the later film, getting rid of the woman is romantically glossed over. That said, she's renounced, not made to dog food. Samuel Delany, an excellent science fiction writer and critic, has invented the word homosexist to describe films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, in which the woman is a dim tag-along brought in to placate the audience, which might be expected to grow uneasy at a film in which the main emotional entanglement between men and women are either secondary or rejected. In this sense, Boy is a homosexist film. It is not a homosexual film. I want to make that clear. If there are constant jokes made about the fuzzy butt of the telepathic dog, Blood, and if the dog is pictured as immensely appealing, this is not because the dog rouses erotic feelings in either Vic, the hero, or anyone else. It is because he doesn't, and it is therefore safe to love him. Boy is affectionate towards the dog, who is asexual. It is the girl, Quilla June, corrupt, dangerous, but powerfully attractive, that the film finds evil and menacing. Stories in which the world's evil is attributed to women or women's sexual attractiveness are hardly new in Western culture, and there are times you swear Boy was a remake of Samson Agonistes or even the story of the Garden of Eden, although the garden here, a world devastated by World War III, is a pretty bleak and minimal one. Stories that portray a noble, talented, and sympathetic man done in by an evil temptress depend heavily on the plausibility of the temptress, and it's here the boy falls down. It's a good film until the impossibility of Quilla June, Vic's girlfriend, destroys it. Among other things, the movie has a splendid performance by the dog, pieced together by the director, one assumes, but at times one wonders the dog's a better actor than many human ones. And the film has the rare science fiction virtue one might call not shoving your nose in it. Remember those films in which somebody says, "My God, Sheila, don't you realize what this means? Those unknown monsters that devour the little girl and kill old Grandpa Perkins are the mutated ants caused by radiation from the bomb test held 3 years ago in the Arizona desert." Well, nobody boy ever talks like this. The film does not painfully belabor the obvious, but gives you the science fiction background and detail you need quickly, dramatically, and above all, obliquely. And you buy the considerable virtues of the movie by having to endure, once again, a story whose main point is that women are no damn good and men are better off without us, even when it means killing us. Vic, the boy, survives with the help of his telepathic dog, Blood, in a ruined, sterile, war-devastated America in which rape and murder are commonplace. He attempts to rape Quilla June, the girl, only to be unexpectedly trapped by love. She tempts him down to the underground world of Topeka, a 1950s Midwestern small-town world like a Ray Bradbury story gone totalitarian, and he finds himself a prisoner. Quilla sets him free, wishing him to kill the leaders of this ghastly place, but the leader's robot executioner is all but unkillable. Although Big manages to shore out one of them, there are plenty more in the warehouse, and the lovers flee above ground. A wounded, weakened Blood, waiting above ground for Big, has waited too long. Big is forced to choose between Blood's life and Quilla June's, and he chooses his real friend, the dog. From the above synopsis, if you haven't seen the film, you might guess that both societies are intolerable, that both characters are driven, and that any course of action taken by anybody will, of necessity, be tragic. This is not the case. For example, the film presents the judicial executioners in Topeka as horrifying, while casual murderers above ground are a cream sort of fun. Vic's and Quilla's reaction giving the audience its cue in both cases. The murders are also paced differently and shown differently. A key line in the film, Vic shouts that he wants to go back to the dirt above ground so that he can feel clean, characterizes her form of hell as infinitely worse than his. He's a loser below ground and a winner above ground, but the film translates the difference into a moral difference between the two societies. I might add that the line itself is television ghastly. Vic has been casually created as someone who would not give a damn about feeling morally clean, and to whom such self-conscious fatuity as the line would be impossible. Above all, Vic and Blood are lovable and good, and Quilla Jane is manipulative and bad, so Vic's final choice is a foregone conclusion. Unfortunately, the foregoneness of the conclusion destroys its drama, since feeding your girlfriend to your dog is neither suspenseful nor tragic. It's necessary and she deserves nothing better. The end dwindles to a sour joke, exactly as the audience took it. It isn't hard to see in the film another repetition of the common American idea that if only men could get away from civilization, that is, women, and civilization's troubles and insistence that one actually interacts with others, life, men's lives, will be much better. Even though Vic's life after Quilla will be lived in a bleak and ruined world, he will be free. Boy is surprisingly like Huckleberry Finn, with Blood as the undemanding and loving companion who isn't quite human, like Nigger Jim. The movie, however, goes farther than to indicate civilization. Topeka is totally corrupt, and woman is not simply avoided but wiped out. A necessity man who has now seen through her victory and is no longer a slave to his gonads, is to go off with his real friend, the dog. Boy presents this woman as corrupt and produced by a corrupt society. Only by murdering her can man avoid her dangerous fascinations. A sexless relationship is better. Love is rotten. And Vic's becoming disillusionment with love is return to his old friend, the dog, is the plot of the film. Quilla June is therefore an important character, and the film's judgment of her is the linchpin of the plot. Quilla Jane at first looks like a brave woman. By coming above ground, she knows how to shoot. By coming above ground, she risks death, not to mention rape. She's also surprisingly competent. She knows how to shoot. However, we soon find that her escape is neither patriotic nor curious, but fueled by greedy ambition. For the elders of Topeka had sent her out with the promise of reward. Later, she braves the rulers of Topeka, including her own father, by freeing Vic, but this action is not undertaken because she likes him or repents for having trapped him. Instead, she wishes him to kill, for her, the community which rules the underground society. Why she can't do this herself is something of a puzzle, for she apparently knows how to shoot and guns are available, but perhaps the film wants to characterize her as simultaneously dangerous and helpless. She has persuaded other teenagers to rebel against the rulers of Topeka, an accomplishment which you might think would show her as something of a political mastermind. But no, they're all boys. There are no girls in Quilla's rebellion. So it is probable that she has seduced them into submission, as she did Vic. She is no Joan of Arc or even Evita Perón, but only Mata Hari. The government of Topeka is viciously conformist, but no credit accrues to Quilla for wanting to destroy such a setup. For what she really wants, as she makes plain to Vic, is to replace those currently in power with herself. The film simultaneously presents her as enormously dangerous and powerful because of her sexuality, and totally helpless. Although she must know about the robot executioner, all she does is scream for Vic to protect her, though earlier she was daring enough to bash in heads. Back on the surface, in her wedding dress, a good touch, she reveals that she's not only helpless, but stupid. She whines unpleasantly and manages Vic badly, and this is fatal because he is now her only protector. According to Samuel Delany, literary characterization proceeds by means of three kinds of actions: gratuitous, purposeful, and habitual, and well-written characters perform all three. This classification certainly applies to realistic fiction, and I suspect it applies to all kinds of fiction, however it lies. Sexist literature produces two kinds of female characters, both imperfect: the heroine, whose actions are all gratuitous, and the villainess, whose actions are all purposeful. Neither performs habitual actions. Now, Quilla June perfectly fits the formula for a villainess. She's all calculation. She has no habits, and what a difference it would make if she did. Bite her fingernails, for example, or wince uncontrollably whenever her dreadful daddy comes too close. But aside from a few clumsy betrayals of hatred, Quilla never does anything spontaneously, that is, gratuitously, any more than she does anything out of habit. She is all outside, all masked, and the few revelations of her feelings are simply revelations that Quilla is hateful. The inner life that makes Platt and Vic so lovable is withheld from Quilla, John, and she's a grotesque enormity, a totally manipulative bitch. We are shown that she's ambitious, but it's hard to know what ambition is supposed to mean here. It seems to be only another word for hate, since what she wants is neither flattery, glory, nor self-importance, but only revenge. In addition to repeating the theme of love between bodies, the film strongly resembles those 1950 films in which the good girl is bait used to bind the bad boy to the conformist system. Except that the 1950s films I'm thinking of are on the side of the system, of which the good girl is an artifact, and this film most emphatically is not. Clearly, Boy intends to attack the conformist system, and are remarkably nasty one in this film. Judgment is pronounced upon by Vic, and its representative, Quilla June, is destroyed by him. What is odd is that Quilla June, far from representing Topeka, is in fact trying to destroy it, and that Topeka, far from being hurt by Quilla June's death, is protected by it. One might begin to suspect that Topeka has an interest in having Quilla destroyed, and that, far from being its representative, she is its scapegoat, expendable and necessary, but useful at times for containing the rage of punks like Vic. That is, thinking you're attacking society when you condemn or ravage the hypocritical nice girl next door is the exact equivalent of thinking that stealing from the local supermarket makes you a communist. The nice girl next door, although she is often perceived as the most protected and most valuable citizen in a sexist society, is neither. She isn't even really in the society at all. She's a figurine, a possession, a commercial product, something the film recognizes at one point when it shows a long line of girls in bridal dresses, same uniform, different faces, waiting in a hospital corridor to be let in and married to Vic. Topeka is taking semen samples from him as he lies wired to a machine that stimulates his brain in order to induce orgasm. Each girl in turn stands under a horseshoe of flowers in her white gown. A minister solemnly reads the marriage service. The machine is turned on, and the resulting semen is neatly labeled, presumably with the name of the wife. The nice girl is socially powerless, useful at best for the minor policing of teenage boys, useful as a reward or a responsibility, but hardly a citizen in her own right. After all, the major policing in a sexist society is done by others, overwhelmingly adult males. When Vic destroys Quilla, he's destroying a victim, a quasi-slave, a piece of useful property. He's certainly not harming Topeka. And the film does not present Quilla's destruction as Quilla's tragedy. On the contrary, it is she who is the real menace. It is she who must be punished. This is a scapegoating. The movie hates Topeka, but it executes Quilla June. Are the two identical? Do you think they are is comparable to the theories that maintain that the only flaw in antebellum Southern slavery was the wretched character and corrupting influence of the slaves themselves? The logic is a form of Philip Willis Momessen, in which women are society and a man escapes from society and its obligations by avoiding women. The usual American form of this illusion is the concept of marriage as a trap into which men are tricked by women. But if society is really constituted by other men, as Topeka certainly seems to be, then no escape is possible. Avoiding women leaves a man just as open to intimidation by other men, by society. Boy avoids the problem of society as other men by splitting the world in two. In underground Topeka, there are relatively free women, that is, young people and members of the lower classes are oppressed regardless of sex, while above-ground women are prostitutes, drudges, or rape victims, and hence powerless. The real ruler of Topeka is clearly Quilla's daddy, but the fight with him is never joined at all. Indeed, the film doesn't even seem interested in him. This is especially odd since the role, a very brief one, played by Jason Roberts Jr., and you would think that out of sheer dramatic expediency the movie will give him more to do. I might add that the rulers of the underground society are presented as quite straightforwardly cynical and callous, which seems to me as a bad mistake. Topeka, in its enforced imitation of Kansas 1905, or A Daydream thereof, is a mind-bendingly surreal place. I don't believe the leaders will be exempt from the generalized craziness. Quite the contrary, 1984 QV. This aspect of Topeka is well conveyed in the film, for example, by the white face makeup and the misty purplish sky, so close that it gives you instant claustrophobia. It is nonsense to insist that the real danger in a tyrannical, self-hating, hypocritical, piously horrible society is pretty scheming little girls. The nice girl looks like the most sacred and the most privileged citizen of this ghastly commonality, but in reality her rights, as opposed to the rights of her owners, are non-existent. In D.W. Griffith's Orphans of the Storm, for example, to lay a finger on Lillian Gish looks like a desecration, but she's far from being a society or even citizen of it. She has been invented, constructed, meant, put there in the film either to be raped or saved from rape. What other purpose can there possibly be for her unhuman helplessness and childishness? The Victorian gentlemen who so assiduously protected their daughters' maiden purity were not hypocrites when they visited whorehouses stocked with 12-year-old girls. They were simply acting on the identical assumption about the high value of maiden purity. In such a setup, pretty girls are about as much privileged citizens as a diamond ring is a privileged citizen. Like money or jewels, women are counters for use in business or warfare between men. Punk loners, who are much more part of society than Vic is part of topic and boy, can go on terrifying and killing waitresses or cheerleaders forever under the impression that they are heroically attacking society. This is what happens in Boy and in The Wild Ones, a movie whose anger and evasions thrill a whole generation. Confusing Nelson Rockefeller with his car is a useful delusion to inoculating punks. This way they attack the car instead of the mind. After all, if the punks ever found out that the car was only a possession, there might be real trouble. But as long as movies assume that the use of women to find men to respectability is an instinct or a scheme by women, who must act as true men in order to attain any power or safety, and not a circumstance set up by powerful men, rebels can expend their emotional and reincarnations of the bitch goddess forever. The war between fathers and sons is as chronic a conflict in patriarchy as the war between classes, that is, between upper-class and lower-class men, though not nearly as revolutionary as in its potential. In both conflicts, women are useful scapegoats, blamable and punishable for everything. After all, son will eventually make it to the state of father and will have his own daughter-wife he can own, protect. From other fathers, a daughter he can give to another son as payment for keep to continue in the status quo. Son can even be counted on to be punished daughter if daughter gets out of hand. Thus a real alliance between daughter and son is made eternally impossible. Unluckily so, for such an alliance would be almost as dangerous for patriarchy as one between daughter and mother. Between classes, scapegoats are even more useful. Lower-class man is not going to make it at all. That said, he will never replace upper-class man. So using lower-class, upper-class women as scapegoat both distracts him from the real situation and bribes him to endure it. The evils of female sexuality and the obligatory punishment of its carriers in the grand, eternally useful scapegoat of Western patriarchy. It is the only one topic on which fathers and sons, upper-class men and lower-class men can heartily agree. And they can agree and collude while enjoying the comforting illusion that they are engaged in dangerous revolutionary activities. I believe the makers of Boy really thought they were violating a sacred taboo when they left Vecula June to blood, but there is certainly no such taboo extant now in fiction or film. In fact, I doubt there ever was one. For quite a while, 20th century literature and films have specialized in exploitation, self-aggrandizement, and violence directed against women. Writers who use such devices can congratulate themselves on being daring while taking almost no risks. This violence didn't start with frenzy either. Griffith could show Lily engaged in various threatening situations time after time. Gloria Swanson could be carried half-naked out of the surf. This in 1919, and DeMille could elevate orgy to a schlock-out. How much freedom had any of them to violate real taboos, for example, to attack free enterprise? The sacredness of the nice girl is important only when it gives one group of sons and fathers a reason to wallop another. Otherwise, nobody cares. The one taboo is highly ambivalent and strongly titillating. The treatment of mom in American movies, with its mingling of exploitation, adulation, and venom, is an even plainer one. But the second taboo is absolute: naked ladies in bathtubs or rape. A subject surprisingly present in late 19th century European theatre. Don't get you into trouble with the censors. Certainly not persistently. If you are Mae West and you try to demystify sex, removing both pruriency and sentimentality from the subject, you get into trouble with the Hays office. If you are Charlie Chaplin, you end up in much worse trouble, and not with the Hays office either. If you look carefully at the structural, though not sexual, position of blood in the triangle dog, boy, girl, you find that he's really Vic's other woman, in fact, Vic's wife. Blood, presented as the bare person Aquila June, nonetheless controls his relationship with Vic through identical manipulativeness of the traditional feminine sort. He's by far the more dependent. He's smaller, he cannot handle firearms, and he depends on Vic for food. Suavely dignified as the dog is, his pretensions are always at very comic odds with his behavior. He's a mooch, a coaxer, a charmer, a wheedler, a jealous sulk, a self-dramatizer who gets his way, but ostentatiously parading his wounded feelings. He even fulfills the common American wifely function, remember Maggie and Jake, of trying to make Vic cultured. In short, he acts very like a wife, even to the traditional parallel that when Blood wants something, like going over the hill, and Vic doesn't, Blood has to do without. It might be objected that Blood works for his keep as a sort of assistant to Vic, but then so do wives. Childcare, shopping, cooking, and cleaning are highly female hobbies. One example of the film's virulent messaging is the presentation of Quilla Jane as strictly a luxury article. Another evidence of loading the deck, very striking too, is the scene in which Quilla calls Blood cute. The audience roars with scorn, but of course the talking dog is cute, and this cuteness is precisely what the audience has been relising all evening. Moreover, Blood's will and Vic's will usually run in the same channels. Pets, which is what the dog is, even if he can't speak, are less demanding and more loyal than human friends. I suspect the reason the film does not present a friendship between two men as the alternative to the relationship between Vic and Quilla is not only that throwing over your girlfriend for a boy would suggest homosexuality, but the friendship between two men could not possibly be as harmonious as the one between a boy and a dog. If Quilla June is seen as an evil by the film, I suspect the main reason is that she's not Vic's dog. The horrid surprise waiting for the lover of this sulky, petable creature is that she has a will of her own, that it is not at all like his, and that sex gives her power over him. Her dependency is a parody of the dog's. It ought to render her loyal and unthreatening, and yet it only makes her scheming and deceptive. That dependency makes women devious. It is a state of affairs patriarchy has been complaining about for centuries. These are extraordinarily good moments. There are extraordinarily good moments in the film, like Vic's stupid sly grin when he's told he's about to act out the ultimate punk sexual fantasy, or the echo fairy tale in Vic's staying underground too long because of the wicked enchantress, just as if Topica were Elfhill. But I can no longer buy fine moments at the price of colluding in my own murder. A reader might object at this point that Quilla June is not all women but only one, and that a film which presents her as a bitch who deserves to be killed is not attacking all women but only one. My answer to this is threefold. First, the film replicates a pattern that is very common in Western culture, if not elsewhere. Second, the film shows nothing of Quilla except her sexual power and her bitchiness. Third, the film doesn't present any alternative to Quilla. Who else is there? The dirty worn-out drudges we see topside? The faceless prostitute glimpsed in one scene? Miss M.S.? What a name! The older Quilla? The sad, obedient schoolgirls of Topica, totally controlled by their parents? Many Hollywood films use them to present us with two alternatives. A woman could be a bitch, and she could be the June Allisonian nice girl. I suppose it is an advance of sorts to stop holding out the June Allison type as an ideal, but all Bowie does is combine the two and insist that the nice girl is the bitch. Early in Boy, Vic finds a woman raped and murdered by a robber pack and comments on what a waste the murder was. She might have been good for a few more times. But by the end of the film, the only logical attitude he or we can adopt, the whole film has been devoted to proving this point, is that Vic was wrong. The only good woman is a dead woman. and the only way a man can have sex with a woman safely is to kill her afterwards. This morality is the morality of King Shahryar, and while the 1001 Nights presents this morality as insane, Boyd presents it as exemplary, perhaps even heroic. Here is a conversation of a friend of mine had recently with a 12-year-old omnivorous reader. He asked her what books she liked to read. Oh, books about people, was not a very clear answer. He asked her if she read any books with women as the central characters. Oh, she said with scorn, I don't read books about women. At 12, she had already made the equation. Women, non-people. And no wonder. Perhaps someday she'll stop reading books, as I may stop going to the movies. I'm going to pull a flip-flop on the makers of A Boy and His Dog. I'm going to send them to see a marvelous, entertaining, absolutely profound, great science fiction film that's just come out. I am especially going to recommend it to Helen Ellison, the author of the story on which A Boy and His Dog is based. He's a Jew, as I am, and the director of A Boy and His Dog, who is, I believe, black. The movie is called The Triumph of the Will, and it's about this great hero and chucklesome charmer called Adolf Hitler, who had the perfect solution to all the ills of society. He murdered you, boys. Notes. This essay first appeared in Frontiers, Volume 1, Number 1, Fall 1975. Reference 1. The story is, to my mind, somewhat different from the film. No wonder the story is totally sympathetic or totally evil, and in particular the events surrounding the two main characters escape from the story's underground society. He's an intruder, and she's a native. Both are misfits, are such as to preclude choosing one character as morally better than the other. The story's point seems to be that both the societies, above ground and underground, are rotten. Furthermore, the story is told from the male character's point of view, a technique that admits both his relative ignorance of the other people in the tale and his natural bias in favor of himself. Films do not have a narrator, and what is seen through the subjective point of view in the story becomes the objective truth of the film. Named so reference 4 in Women's Science Fiction and Symposium to appear in Catherine Knowles 3, Spring 1975. 5. A good example of a gratuitous heroine is the help and comfort accorded to the two male characters by the Lady of Butch Cassidy. Pauline Kael has made sufficient comment on her supposed motivations: painterhood, boredom, and being at the bottom of the heap, as a pioneer school teacher out west. Of all things. 6. Shahryar's attitude is possessive due to the wound given his sense of property, adultery. Big's attitude is self-defense. This may represent some kind of progress, but hardly the conscious kind. 7. Samuel Delany again in Women in Science Fiction, A Symposium. He is one of the few male feminists I know who truly deserves the name, and he is a first-rate theoretical critic. His forthcoming novel, Triton, deals with male sexism, women as an oppressed class, and genuinely non-sexist society.